Hi, Emanuela. So you've decided to write some essays for your IELTS preparation. Well done. It's a very good idea, not only to practice, but also to get feedback for your writing. So I'm glad you've done this. Let's get right into it. So the first essay is doing an enjoyable activity with a child. Better skills, imagination. To what extent do you agree? Let's see what you said about this. It is well known how reading leads to, you're missing a 2 here, several benefits like stress reduction or vocabulary expansion. I believe that to develop creativity and other skills, playing is way more effective, especially during the first years of a child's life, and try to avoid this way much more. First of all, the expression is way more, but apart from that, it's too informal. Like this is pretty modern slang, so it certainly does not belong in an essay. What I would suggest instead of this is playing is far more effective. Okay, if you write that, it's very nice. So this essay will analyze, without the S, the statement, and use examples of constructive play, without the S, to demonstrate points with an S and prove arguments. All right, so the structure is nice of this introduction. Let's keep moving on and see what you said next. First of all, manipulating and exploring objects, with an S here, is crucial during childhood, without this word here, life, and it is a quick way to learn and develop skills. This is because no comma necessary. During playing with something physical, how about during play? And I don't know what you mean with something physical. Like, are you talking about okay, I'm assuming you're going to talk about it later, but so during play with something physical, they manage to make the imagination work. For example, playing with dough has an important benefit for children, apostrophe S, for children's development. While they are busy squeezing and rolling, they're improving strength in their muscles and also developing cognitive flexibility and their ideas. All right, I like that. Secondly, doing sports, not team, but doing sports like volleyball or soccer allows children to acquire flexibility, coordination, better esteem. I think you mean self-esteem here. And muscle memory. This is due to the fact that practicing the sport during the first years of life until adolescence increases their capacity. Whose capacity? You've had so many nouns in these past 2 sentences that it's impossible to know who this "there" refers to. So this is the kind of place where you would want to make it clear. Okay? And has a positive impact in their adult lifestyle. Take, for example, a recent study from the UBC, which, you're missing a which here, indicated that 80% of children, I don't know what BC means, practicing sports 5 times a week for about 30 minutes per day. All right, I have to read the sentence again. Take, for example, a recent study from the UBC, which indicated that 80% of children, I don't know what this means, practicing sports 5 times a day for about 30 minutes, boosted, because you don't need this here, boosted self-confidence and leadership capacity. As a result, although the lifestyle of today's children is scientifically proven, it is predominantly a sedentary lifestyle. That has nothing to do with anything, really, Emanuela, because you're talking about how these sports improve skills as opposed to reading. So I don't know what you mean that a lifestyle is scientifically proven. I don't know what that means. But this about sedentary has nothing to do with anything. What you're trying to tell me is that children gain really important skills through sports that reading cannot provide them. So that's where your focus should be. This is really rather off topic. Okay, so your conclusion. To conclude from the examples, plural, there wasn't just one example, and arguments given, families and institutions should encourage and teach children to actively play instead of promoting a harmful lifestyle such as keeping them on the computer or television that leads to have a sedentary lifestyle. Why is there nothing about reading here? I mean, you're talking now about computers and television, but clearly the issue here is enjoyable activities versus reading. There should be something about reading in here. And there's nothing. You didn't even mention it. So I mean, the only time you mentioned reading was this very first sentence, and then nowhere again. You should have at least talked about it in your conclusion. You should have also mentioned your body paragraphs. So for me, that's an issue with this essay. Okay, let's take a look at this other task too. So now we're going on to your second essay, communication between family members. Let's see. Nowadays, relationships between families, components, it is a big issue. All right, let's clean up the grammar here a little. So nowadays, relationships between, just say family members. It's not the end of the world. I mean, it's not like you're copying it directly from the prompt. I mean, all right, yeah, that's how it's phrased, but there are tons of ways you could have said this. So you could have said, nowadays, relationships between members of the same family. Or you could have said, nowadays, relationships within families are a big issue. That's actually a nice, concise way to say it. And then no comma, because of 2 reasons. And then you put a colon here, technology and time. Looking at this whole sentence again, let's start it from the beginning. Nowadays, relationships within families are a big issue because of 2 reasons, colon here, technology and time. This essay will analyze both issues and use examples to demonstrate points and prove arguments. I believe modern life having a fundamental impact, speaking of interpersonal. All right, this does not work in English. I don't really know what you're trying to say here. And let's see. They're not asking you to analyze the technology and time issue. They're asking you to say if you agree that communication is less today or not. That's what we want the answer to. And then here, I'm not really sure what you're trying to say. I believe modern life has a fundamental impact with regard to interpersonal relationships. I think this is what you want to say, but I'm really not sure. All right, let's move on. Firstly, most of the countries, not most of the countries, because that means that like we know which countries you're talking about. What you mean here is most countries in a more general sense. So most countries are facing drawbacks of technologies, and this has affected, or how about this? The negatively should never go between the verb and the noun. So it should be, and this has negatively affected families, no apostrophe, IES, and the way they educate their children, no how. This is because living without cell phones, S, computers, S, or televisions, S, has become impossible to do. For instance, children use tech tools from their early life, and adults need, no S, computers, S, and cell phones, S, in order to work. Therefore, to keep up without it, to keep up with time, they are losing capacity to communicate with each other. Okay, now check out what's happening here. You're talking about how we all live with our phones, we all live with our computers, and we all live with our television. And even children start using them from a very early age. However, just because you use something and everyone uses it from an early age, it doesn't mean that we are losing capacity to communicate. It's as if you have gone from point A to point D, skipping all of those in-between steps, okay? You've skipped step B and C. And you can't just assume that the reader knows what you're talking about. You have to make that connection for the reader, okay? So, secondly, in today's life, no capital here, people are stressed with a DED because of too much work. Full stop. This causes, this is the wrong word, discrepancy. This causes a disruption of their family routine and traditions. This is due to the fact that life has become unaffordable, and each family member needs to work hard in order to live. Full stop. Consequently, they can dedicate Consequently, they dedicate less time to each other. Okay, so you really need to make some changes here in order for this essay to make sense. Take, for example, a recent study from UBC, which indicated that 70% of Italians use their lunch break, which is about 1 hour per day. Write the whole word out, please. Sharing quality time with their families so they can pass that time communicating. As a result, although the ability to build a family relationship, what? I don't know why you use although here. I really just don't understand. So, take for example a recent study from, I'm going to read it again. Take for example a recent study from the UBC, which indicated that 70% of Italians use their lunch break, which is about 1 hour per day, to share quality time with their families so they can pass that time communicating. As a result, the ability to build a family relationship, I don't know what this means. I really don't understand. I thought I did, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know what you're trying to say here. That needs to be revised. Okay, Emanuela. So, to conclude from the examples and the arguments, employers should be giving workers more time to spend with the family, as this could have a positive influence on workers who would be less stressed and therefore more productive. Full stop. Okay, now check it out, Emanuela. You never add a new piece of information in your conclusion. All of a sudden, you're mentioning what employers should do. You never mentioned it anywhere in either of your body paragraphs. This is not the place to mention something new. Okay, what you really want to do here is you want to restate what you've said in your essay, in other words, and then just get out of there. You just want to finish your conclusion. Okay, but don't add new elements. So, my basic feedback about this is that this paragraph, I had a hard time understanding what the main idea was. I'm not sure what you were trying to say. But I definitely don't feel like you've answered the question, okay? Let's look at what the question is once again. Communication between family members of late is less. Do you agree? To what extent do you agree? So, let's say that, yes, I agree. Okay, and yes, I agree because of XYZ reasons. Okay, now there are a couple ways you can do this. If you agree 100%, you could do it in 2 paragraphs and, you know, just in each body paragraph, really just develop one main idea. That's one way to do it. Or you could say, well, you could say, yes, they are communicating less, but in some cases, these technologies actually allow families to communicate more. So that's a nice way to do this, because that really looks at the issue in a more kind of holistic way, in a more kind of well-rounded and broader way. So that's one thing I would recommend. All right, so what you need to do now is correct these essays, write them, not them, but you have to actually write the errors to an error correction list. What that basically means is that I have given you lots of feedback regarding the errors, so write the errors as you wrote them and then what they should be, okay? Correct these essays, write the error correction list, and then write your new essays, send them back to us within the next day or so. This is where you can really apply all the things that you've been learning, both through the course and through this video correction. So, Emanuela, lots of luck with your writing. I hope you found this helpful. I'll be here. I'll be waiting to see what you write for us next.